Hi, I'm Joss Whedon, and this is the very final audio commentary on the very final episode of the very final season of Buffy. And if you've actually been through all the episodes and all the commentaries and all the DVDs, and you have a feeling of exhaustion, confusion, and sort of a low-riding rage that you can't really describe or understand, then you'll know how I felt when we shot this. To say that I was wiped out by the time we got here is the understatement of the world. And no scene, I think, showed that more than this one, because we had so little time to shoot so much, which I'll explain as we go to the credits.
Are you ready to finish this, bitch?
You see, that was actually the first stuff we shot for the episode, and we only had David for a little while, so, and I mean a really little while. I had about 7 hours to do about 10 pages, it all required everybody to be completely on point, but that's, with Nathan and Sarah and David, that's what you get. Professionalism. Everybody was right on their mark, and everybody worked really hard, and it was a good start to this, because there was no episode we ever shot that was harder, bigger, and that left less time for me to try and do anything interesting with the camera. It left less time for the DP to light, left less time for everybody and everything to do their best work, and yet somehow people managed to. The stunts I did not have to shoot that night. John Medlin shot most of it, second unit, and you'll be hearing a little bit about David Solomon, who also shot a huge amount of second unit for me on this show because it took so many days. What can I say about Nathan Fillion that hasn't already been said? He's, a great hero and a great villain, and just delightful. I was so happy to have him back for the beginning of this episode, just because I wanted to work with him, and he'd gotten to work with other directors, and I didn't think it was fair that I didn't get any. And I thought splitting him in half from the crotch up was, maybe a little on the nose as a radical feminist statement goes, but for his character, I really thought he'd earned it. So.
Yeah, she needs you real bad. I'll have the guys go through that.
And David, again came in and just was right on the money, same as Sarah, from the first take, which was so important. The only person who didn't do their best work here, I think, was me, just because the lack of time meant that, here we are, is an over, that's an over, and then we have a two-shot, over two-shot, which is pretty much the gold standard for boring television directing. But when you're in the kind of hurry we were in, I really didn't have any choice. They make one big move in this entire scene, and once they do, we started shooting both of them at the same time. And that's the rarest thing of all, because usually you light in one direction, it's very specific, and then it takes a while to turn around and light in the other direction. But every now and then, when you're desperate, you ask your DP to light both people at the same time. It's not undoable. Both of them look good here, but we had two cameras running on them at the same time. It also helps the scene sometimes, because both people are in it, in their coverage, in their close-up at the same time, and they're giving their all, and they're working off the rhythms of the other person very specifically, so you're not cobbling together something that is taken, at what could be hours apart. So it's a fun way to shoot. It just makes life hell for a DP, and Ray came through, as he always does, really spectacularly on that.
You're not telling me something.
Yes, there will be praise, because a lot of people really impressed me. This was a really hard episode to shoot. One of the shots coming up, this one, Steadicam shot, designed to show the scope of the giant graveyard and give a little motion and emotion to what they're doing. Of course, the giant graveyard is our parking lot, the graveyard that Gareth Davies, our producer, suggested we build at the beginning of season 2 to save time going out to graveyards. We shot the first half of this scene, the first half of that night, and then we came out here to shoot the rest of it. Again, the time constraints were insane, and yet the stuff looks great, and the two of them are, as funny and real as they've ever been. So that worked out just fine. And David doing my all-time favorite thing, which is being petty. Whenever Angel is petty, I think he's at his best.
He's not. But.
And I love the fact that I feel the scope of the graveyard, which is where I thought Buffy and Angel should leave their, their relationship on this show, because it is the iconic place for Buffy, the graveyard, more than anything else. A lot of this last episode had to do with, finding that perfect iconic moment and that perfect iconic thing that really said, this is a summation of what we've done. I did that before. I did it in episode 22 of season 5, where I had Buffy fighting a vampire in the alley at the beginning. I had made a lot of the statements to sort of round out my feelings about the show already. But life went on, the show went on, and writing a second final episode of Buffy was, I'll say, much harder than writing the first. Partially because I'd already written one, partially because I knew this was actually the end. At some point, I just had to let go and just write. Forget about the pressure. Forget about it being perfect, because it wasn't going to be, and it isn't. And just try to make it good enough, hit the beats, give an episode that people would remember. We knew where we wanted to go thematically, and it was just a question of getting there. This speech about cookies was originally pitched, not with cookies exactly, but I believe baking was in there, by Marty Noxon early in the season. And I think as a showrunner, I could have done a better job of bringing us to it. She sort of comes to this conclusion a little bit out of the blue. And that's, my fault. But we knew that emotionally it's where we wanted to get. And what we wanted to get to is the idea of my relationships don't work out because I'm still becoming a woman and finding my place. And I don't need to find the perfect guy at age 22 or however old Buffy is at this point. I can wait. I can wait until I'm fully formed. And I think that's a very important message. And when Marty had, she'd thought about this in her own life, and she sort of told me about it, I was like, I think this is, that's exactly where we need Buffy to get. And it helps with the other really complicated part of writing this episode, which was how to get Angel and Spike together in the same show, have the big emotion for both of them, and not make her seem like the slut queen of Slutdonia, as Marty herself would say. So it was very tricky, and I would also like to point out that I had to do it in the same act. By the end of before the end of Act 1, she's sleeping with Spike. This exit for Angel was meant to mirror his first exit, him backing off in the darkness.
I ain't getting any older.
Something hopefully iconic enough, and something to give people hope that Buffy and Angel might one day work out, because some fans, now I realize not many, but there were a few fans who feel that the Buffy Angel romance was like a big deal. And, clearly I thought Parker was, the most important romantic relationship of her life. Other people disagreed. That's fine. I guess they can do that. They care about the Angel thing. Some people care about the Spike thing. I don't know why we couldn't get Parker in there too, but apparently, whatever. So that vocal minority who care about Buffy and Angel meant that we had to do service by him. Eye socket jokes, always funny.
So, what's told Dr. Forehead?
And this was the trick, how to get her in the sack with Spike, half an act after Angel had left. But the experience, I've said this probably 100 times, and probably all of them on the audio commentaries to these damn episodes. The trick is always to make the audience go through exactly what she's going through. It's confusing to us emotionally that we should bounce from one to the other, and it's confusing to her. But Spike is the person in her life right now. That drawing, by the way, is my own creation, and a lot of the crew members were like, why does he hate Butthead? And I was like, oh, it's supposed to be Angel. And that was something that I did on the day. It wasn't in the script. That's the kind of wacky improv I've got going. Who knows what could happen at any moment? I could come up with that. I think that's actually the only thing I came up with. I mean, besides the script.
Angel meant to wear it. That means I'm the qualified party.
It's volatile. We don't
You'll
know
be
that.
needing someone strong to bear it then. You were planning on giving it to him.
The great Marsters with a chemistry with Buffy that is just completely different from Angel's. And different than David's, and yet works very, very well. He's more on Buffy's level. He's more, their vulnerabilities come out. And I don't just mean as characters, but as actors around each other. And that really works. It works on a very different level. Their relationship clearly been through a lot. Much more, in fact, than her relationship with Angel in a way. And you feel that history with these two, and they bring it to the set every time they come to work, and that's why we still came to work, because they did. And James, the ability to turn on a dime, is a very rare thing in an actor, from incredibly noble or scary to completely dorky or disarming. He does it with the tongue line earlier. He does it here. You'd be amazed how few people can actually do that, and the last person I ever expected to be able to do it would be a theater-trained guy, but yet he's got the chops. He can go from Dracula to Jack Benny in a heartbeat, which is one of the reasons why I love him, that and his shiny, shiny hair. The idea behind their sleeping together was very important. It was that their relationship had enough trust in it that it was physical and romantic, but not sexual. That was, of course, in response to the rape issue of last year when he had attempted to rape her because he didn't understand the boundaries of their relationship. He was soulless. But having gotten his soul and having fought to become a person, we wanted to say this man can be redeemed from that. Not, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, not in a Luke and Laura, he rapes her and they get married way. Not in a all is forgiven way. Just in the way of he's still a human being who did a wrong thing, and we still count him as a human being. I think that's a very important message, that the relationship should be complicated, and yet come to a place of trust without saying, okay, now they're going to become lovers again, because I think that would be wrong. I think that's the wrong message. It's a very fine line.
Scales will tip, and I will be made flesh.
Talk on. I'm not afraid of you.
I love watching them face off. I love Nathan tells his little jokes like he's almost like he's an old man. His little puns and his silliness. He's just, the delight he takes in his character is just so very charming. And the point he's hitting on, of course, being the whole point of the show, being the whole point of the season. And it seemed, not only really affordable to have Sarah play the first for most of this, but also the smartest, because, we've come full circle. We ended the first episode with her as the first, and we should end this episode with her as the first, and she should literally be the person telling herself that she is alone.
Where's your snappy?
These two actually didn't get along at all, and working with the two of them was a nightmare. I thought they would, but they were complaining their outfits were too similar, and their trailers were the same size, and there was trouble. I'm drowning in footwear is just one of those lines that that make you glad that you're a writer that can write something that silly and actually put it on the air.
Yeah.
It's an odd thing to end an act with an affirmation of potential victory, but it made sense to me here because it's so strange. Well, this shot is kind of a cheesy trick, but it was a way to get everybody in the frame, so I liked it. This scene was one of those, okay, got to make our day kind of scenes, in the sense of, I shot the room as a 3-wall. You'll notice I don't come around on Giles when he speaks to Willow. I get him in profile, which I don't mind doing. I don't need to be in everybody's face exactly for every moment. But it was, a function of the very small amount of time we had that I played it as a proscenium also, almost. You never do see that fourth wall, and the bed helped. Some people have complained that the magic that this scythe originally from the Frey comic that I was writing at the same time is a little too convenient. And my answer to those critics is, well, don't tell everybody. It is convenient, and that doesn't really bother me because ultimately, to me, the magic, the phlebotinum, is always secondary to what needs to be said, and what needed to be said, had to do with empowerment, and the way to get there was, through Willow's magic and what it means to her, and being a Slayer and what it means to them. So the fact that everything sort of fell into place maybe a little too easily, maybe I could have thought of something a little more intricate, but that isn't where my heart was. My heart was in the heart, more than it was in the magic. This scene, well, first of all, the first time Buffy got through this speech, which I'm sure you can realize when you watch the episode, we shot all as one. There are two parts to it, and it's very long. And in fact, it's about twice as long as what you see on screen. We cut about half of it in the editing room. Apparently, my pen runneth over. So Sarah's basically doing a scene that is 4 times as long as what she does here. And did she get every single word right on the first take? Yes, she did. Did the extras actually spontaneously burst into applause when she was done? Yes, they actually did. And it's, again, one of the reasons why we went as long as we did, working as hard as we did. The fact that she could do that. I'd also like to point out that it was young Miss Dushku who actually stopped to say how much she liked the scene, how much she liked the speech, how much she liked the words. And coming from an actor who knows they're going to spend half a day standing there looking with absolutely no lines, I thought that was particularly gracious. In this scene, she accused me of getting back at some girl because of the way Wood kind of disses on her. But actually, it just made me laugh. And there aren't any girls I need to get back at. Actually, I think I told her that if that was what I was trying to do with the show, it would be going another 4 seasons. But I think these two just had a lovely chemistry. And this is not something that necessarily would have been in the last episode, a relationship talk from the two of them. But it deals with the isolated nature of the Slayer, embodied here by Faith rather than Buffy, which is really, an important part of the season. And, it just... it tells us a little something about the two of them and pays off really nicely at the end. 2 takes, in either direction. Both of them were so on point and so delightful. Eliza, not happy about giving up control of the scene, of being vulnerable when he attacks her skills. And the expression, "dude, I got mad skills," was actually said to me by Eliza in reference to serving ice cream, actually, or working at the Dairy Queen, I believe, not in reference to anything else. But I loved the phrase so much, I thought, I simply have to have Faith say it. And of course, since it was me writing, it became dirty. Weird. It's a thing.
You live through this, you give me the chance to surprise you.
What will be the surprise?
You.
DB Woodside, from the first frame that I saw in the first episode, he intrigued me so much. A real comer, a real epic guy, just a little bigger than life, and you look for that. So often you don't find it. It's really hard to find someone who's a match. I love Yadi and Allie in this scene. Well, I love Allie in pretty much every scene where she doesn't have to speak a foreign language. And I think, it's not a big secret that originally I had planned to bring Tara back. And when that didn't work out, I was looking for the anti-Tara. somebody as unearthly and unlike her as possible. And Yadi has a wonderful presence and a great physicality with Allie that is just very natural. So I liked working with them. This was my first time because I didn't shoot any up until this one because I was too tired. I was pretty much too tired to shoot this one too, but I had no choice. I couldn't let somebody else do it, except for the parts that I let John Medlin and David Solomon do, which we will come to later. And the reasoning behind the two of them was very simply, somebody has to end this show with a goddamn girlfriend. And, why shouldn't it be Willow? Somebody has to end in a decent relationship. Because we had so many of them fall apart. I loved this. I love doing this as a oneer, because I love a oneer. I always love a oneer. You have to do them a lot more times. They take about as long as doing a scene with coverage, but when you get it, it's all there and it's all in the frame. It's delightful. And Tom, well, I can't say enough about him. This thing he does with his hood, when he says step back, he had never done in any take. He just threw it in there right now. Here we go. Step back, girlfriend. He had never done that before, and it just, he's always trying to bring more to the table. Not in that annoying, I have an idea that will ruin the shot way, but just in that I'm staying in it. And, I loved that he became a huge part of the show. The scene was also added so that we could give Amanda some screen time so that later on I could kill her. Because I wanted to take a toll, and, well, I think Emma knows that as well as anybody. Battle without some kind of a toll is not a real battle. I pulled wide here because I had planned to shoot that on set, and when they said, we're going out and shooting it, I said, well then damn it, I'm pulling wide so they know we really went there. That night we actually had 4 directors shooting porch scenes for 4 different shows. And this bit here, I did actually add on set, not just the picture of Butthead on the punching bag, but this, where I said, I want to get a couple shots, we were going fast, and that one, I didn't know if I was going to use the 2 of them. And to me, it's almost the most important shot in the show because it really shows, the mystery of their relationship. And that's one where I wanted the audience to fill in the blanks. I wanted whatever you want to have happened to have happened. If people believe that on their last night together they made love, great. If they believe that on their last night together they talked all night, great. If they believe that they had a fight, great. Whatever it is, it's up to the viewer, and I think the viewer has earned that. And I love that elliptical nature of their last night together. I think there should be work for the viewer to do in that sense, emotionally, because I think that makes it more textured. And that shot of the 2 of them looking at each other, I just find beautiful. I had fun with this shot too, setting up all my parameters, coming around, big wide lens, show the school.
Now, odds are most of them will head there.
Teams of 2 then. I suggest you and I take the lounge.
I concur.
Xander, I want you with Don.
I concur.
And then, of course,
So that leaves me in the dungeon in the North Hall.
the great Andrew Oscar speech, which
Yes. We will defend it with
made me laugh every single time we did it.
Good, yes, thanks.
Sometimes out loud, which is actually not a good thing for a director to do during a take.
Die for this very special cause with you guys. There's some
His brother Tucker, of course, a character that we referenced all the time, was the guy who tried to destroy the prom.
shout out
And
to my brother Tucker, who
we had originally wanted that actor, Brad, to come and be one of the nerds, but he was busy and couldn't. And so we found Tom and, played up the idea that everybody couldn't remember him because he was somebody else's little brother, which, by the way, happened to me in high school all the time. But I love that. The little continuity things are very important to me. That sentence was actually said to me by Marty after the show, when she was leaving the house after we had watched it. Well, it nearly made me cry. But I don't cry because I am a manly man. This moment, I don't really think I need to explain what's going on here. I felt it was very important, and I think
What do you guys want to do tomorrow?
the audience did too, that these 4 of everyone have their moment together. These 4 who started it all should finish it all. And you know, much in the same way they began it. That's why I echoed the exact line, "The Earth is doomed," from Giles. This shot is, you know, echo of the very ending of the two-part beginning.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
And this shot also, you know, very important as they peel off one by one, best friends going to their destinies, and Buffy left alone. I shot it in slow motion, but unfortunately it was so slow that it took up about half the show. I had a whole long walk for Buffy down the basement where she remembered things and walked in slow motion. Really, really long. Had to cut it. Had to cut a lot of things. My shows almost always come out long because I talk too much. In this instance, I'm supposed to be talking right now too much, but sometimes I just do. Almost cut this shot, which I think is again one of the most important shots, just for time when we were shooting, but the idea of all these girls bleeding together, I think has a good earthy, almost menstrual metaphor to it, which I think is important since they're all becoming empowered together, becoming slayers. Oh, did I give it away? Well, if you're listening to the audio commentary, you probably already know that.
Okay, magic time. You ready, Daddy?
My biggest regret about this episode is that I didn't get to do more Funny Willow stuff. There was just so much plot to get through, and Funny Alley is such a great thing, and I wished we'd had more.
To be a buzzkill, love. My fabulous accessory isn't exactly tingling with power.
This shot is rather seamlessly woven in by Lonnie and our guys at Zoic, and you know, really gave us an epic feel that we just didn't have the money for on this show, lo these many years, and so we'd been saving all year for this very sequence and these very shots. The idea that there was now a technology where you could do hundreds and thousands of bad guys just didn't exist in the first 6 years. And people said, well, somebody saw the two towers, and the fact of the matter is what I saw was the little thing, I think it was in Cinefex, explaining that they had this new technology where you could create you know, thousands of bad guys, and I was like, that will make this battle different than all the others, the sheer number.
See us?
Willow.
My God.
And this.
So here's the part where you
This I knew I was coming to from the start of the season, pretty early on in it. You know, Buffy was isolated. As a character, even in the world, you know, Buffy and her gang, never, you know, never an ensemble, always, you know, the star and the others, you know, in the magazines and whatnot. And it was very important to me to say, okay, it's great that you've worshipped this one iconic character, but find it in yourself. Everybody, and that's why we shot the people all over, and that was a great fun thing to do. The very last thing I shot for the show on First Unit was the girl in the trailer, and you know, Drew Goddard pointed out that it was kind of a great last shot to be shooting, this one, for this show. And I can't say enough about our little baseball girl. So many people just lost it. I thought, oh, this is going to be too cheesy, the baseball thing. And so many people were like, I was that girl. I played Little League. That was so important. And that's the cry moment for a lot of people. Again, you know, I can't say enough about these Zoic guys. The job they did integrating these things. And Felicia Day as Vi and Indigo as Rona. Just doing great work, and Sarah Hagen as Amanda. Just, you know, they really stuck. You know, a lot of girls came, a lot of girls got killed, and this image, you know, which we referred to speaking of Lord of the Rings, is the Kate Blanchett image, obviously meant to, she couldn't stop talking about, her black-haired evil, and the idea that when she empowers these women, she comes to something more powerful, beyond the concept of power, beyond the power that's evil, something truly connected, about connection, about women's connection to each other and to the earth, and that it would bring out the best in her, and it would be nifty. It seemed like a good conclusion to her story, her arc. This scene, all of this stuff, this is where David Solomon really came in and helped out. He shot for days of second unit because there was simply so much to shoot. And without him, he was a great director on the show and a great producer anyway. Without him doing this episode, I never would have made it through. He kept it interesting when we actually had to stop filming one Friday night in the halfway through because I was just too tired. Felicia was like, "You hooked me up fat." She loved all this footage we got of her, but she looked great. That shot was very specifically storyboarded before we ever did anything. It was very important to get that moment of just everybody doing everything in slow-mo, and I thought it came out really nicely.
I just figured you'd be terrified and I would be sarcastic about it.
And if you're going to pay off things that people have dealt with over the years, bunnies is going to be one of the most important.
Floppy? Hoppy?
Emma, just about the funniest person who ever looked that good. DB loved to fight. So did Tony. I wish we could have had more of it. We, again, wanted to keep everything just as fast as possible. And, I have swimmer's ears, just something he happened to say that made me laugh. So I put it in. It had nothing to... I don't know why the character's saying that. It's not going to stop the vampire. Some people complained again that the vampires were too easy to kill, that they were supposed to be stronger than other vampires. And the fact of the matter is, it's true. Like the convenience of the magic, it's true. Because, again, I was more interested in showing the empowerment than I was in the continuity. To make every vampire as hard to kill as the first one would have been too hard. Shooting the battle as it was required many more days than we had scheduled, and more directors. So it once I gotten all the big moments out, and this was a very important thing too. Also, the sharing of the scythe means the sharing of the power, just about as literally as you can get. Had to use a little sunlight since it was the middle of the day. And this. One of the most brutal images that we've ever done, and done to keep the sense of battle, the unheroic death, but also interesting because I actually had never seen it before, never seen anybody cut like that, and I came up with the idea of the stuntman using a half sword and digitally adding the rest of the sword and the cut. So, instead of just one of those ND slices like you always get in sword fight movies, we really got someone down. And then, of course, Sarah following as well. That was because, I needed a toll. I needed this battle really to feel like a battle. And I couldn't kill any of my core four and still call it a happy ending. I couldn't kill Dawn and still call it a happy ending either. So Anya got the nod. And to make it as unheroic as possible, just felt very real and very creepy. And that shot was, in fact, her last shot. A lot of people didn't actually get that this was a pun. But it seemed like the right thing. And here, I really got to give it up for the composer. He increased the budget of the show by half just because his music gave it such an epic feel. A great Zoic shot there. But this music, to me, embodies so much of what I was striving for and just makes the thing feel twice as epic as it was. Beautiful piece of music. It's Ming, a great stunt woman, and she gave us great footage, as Felicia did too. All the girls really enjoyed their fighting. They really wanted to fight more and more, Yadi particularly. Sarah at one point said, "Look, we're going to need some footage. I'll just keep fighting. Just keep rolling, and I'll fight." The sunlight hits Spike. The sunlight is channeled through Spike. And gets nasty. Some of the body language from these vamps, again, all CGI, really beautifully done.
Feel it.
Wait.
My soul.
The idea of the soul
It's really there.
being the thing that elevates and kills him felt like a beautiful wrap-up. And again, going from the epic to the humorous in a heartbeat. That's our boy. The girls kept walking through the beam. I had to explain, "You're being chopped in half. Duck." And she actually fell, which was really fun because it makes it look real. Because it was, and she wasn't hurt. Nobody was hurt. It's all fake. It's okay. The idea of the bus, what can I say? It just felt right. It's a good way to get a lot of people out, and it's a school bus. You leave school on a school bus, and that's what we did. This shot, one of my favorites too. He's looking for her. She's right there. He doesn't find her. Those always get me.
You beat them back. It's for me to do the cleanup.
This was an interesting scene because both James and Sarah came to it from the wrong place, really. They were playing things falling apart and the terror of it, and I said that what I wanted was for them to completely distance themselves from it, and I explained how all the sound was going to drift out. I thought this was a sort of romantic image, the two of them. We actually did it with real fire, but the hands were all gelled up and you could tell, so this was added CGI and it looks beautiful. I thought it was a nice comment on their relationship. But what I basically told them was, play the romance. Be proud of him. Love him when you say you love him. Love her when you say she doesn't love you. Forget about the crumbling world. For that period of time, it doesn't exist. It's a cinematic trick, but it's a necessary emotional one. I was surprised that they hadn't come there, because usually the three of us come to a scene in exactly the same place. And this time it really was sort of different. And eventually Sarah said, "If you have what you think you need, I think we should move on, because I'm not sure I understand how this works." But I look at the two of them got together, and their work is tremendous. But that is, part of making TV and movies. Sometimes you'll get a take from an actor that blows you away, and they'll go, "Oh, I wasn't feeling a thing. I was thinking about something else. Can we go again?" And you're like, "You just gave me gold." And they're like, "Well, I didn't feel it." I'm like, the audience will. Sometimes you can let them have another, and sometimes you just say, "Trust me, the audience will be there, because I was." Another beautiful image. Our boy going down for the last time, even though everybody already knew he was going to be on Angel.
Look at me. This is nothing. Stay awake. This is nothing.
I loved revving Felicia up to as much intensity as she could get. That was fun. We went right there. We're going around the lot, our own little lot, and then this actual miniatures and CGI, and I'm just obsessed with people running and jumping on things. The big leap. And so I got one at the end of my show. It's an old trick. There is another old trick. The first trick was the fact, I love that, by the way. It just couldn't have a better description of what happens to Sunnydale. But the first trick was she jumped, the bus drove under, but actually they happened at different times. And we were still, which is something we did when Faith fell into the truck. They were talking about, the bag, and we'll cheat it with perspective. I'm like, can't we just shoot them both and then do a split screen? And then of course the Now this, I have to say, the endless road behind them was something that came from Tony Head. He pointed out, "Oh, that's beautiful. You have an endless horizon. It's a perfect image for the rest of the show, for the end of the show, and the rest of their lives." And I was like, "Yeah, that's great. Except I parked a bus in front of it, and you guys play in front of the bus, and we're never going to see it." So I gave that moment to Sarah of just looking out and seeing that horizon, because I agreed with Tony. I thought it was beautiful, and I didn't think it should be missed. And then, of course, that poor sign, which in one incarnation or other has been knocked down so many times. Again, I had very much planned not to have any reason for Anya's death, any reason behind it or any reason to come after it. But the writer in me couldn't not resolve it somewhat, and I think the audience needed what Xander needed, which was something. And that something was Andrew learning that the thing that he's sort of reviled for, making up stories, becomes the thing that he helps Xander with, becomes the thing that he actually is good at, giving her the epic death she didn't actually get to have.
Did we make it?
I think these two have as grown-up and textured a relationship as any of the characters on the show, and they had about 4 scenes together total. So, you know, I love that about them. I love how much goes on in each of them when he dies. Dying, having a character die, and then suddenly bringing them back is something you can only earn after you've actually killed a couple people. So this was a nice opportunity to say this isn't over yet, to have the call back. But I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't, you know, legitimately offed a few beloved characters. And then we come to what is the final shot. Needless to say, we shot this one a bunch of times. I had this in my head from the start. When we first did it, we started up high, and it looked kind of fake and cheesy. And they're, of course, playing against an abyss that isn't there. But I knew this was going to be a oneer. I knew it was going to be a slow push in. We started to shoot it, and then Ray, the DP, said, "You know what? The light's not that good. The wind's not that good. Let's just leave the crane arm and go shoot the little bits in front of the bus." So we held off for about 4 hours and came back, tried again. Everybody getting their lines, a tough thing. Everybody being in the right place in frame, very tough. But I wanted it to just be everyone and to end with, you know, the close-up of Buffy, because what this shot ultimately about is what a lot of the show is about, which is that the story goes on, that there is closure, but not a closing, that what we've seen is a life being formed, like the cookie dough speech explains. This is a life in progress, a life that in some ways is just beginning, like that smile. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching my show.